You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service. Your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/tryus.
You're a podcast listener, and this is a podcast ad. Reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Lips and Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a reproduced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience with Lips and Ads. Go to lipsandads.com now. That's LIBSYN ads.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, today what I thought we would do, just for the heck of it, why don't we go through and just see what everybody else is talking about? And by everybody else, I mean around the NFC North. Let's do a little roundup, see what the boys are talking about. I do want to start with the Minnesota Vikings because obviously, as much as a lot of this is making fun of stupid takes, all that kind of stuff, the vast majority of the Vikings content that I found was about Kyrie Jackson, the Minnesota Vikings DB that passed away, rookie, promising guy. So figured I'd put that out there on the forefront. Obviously, that is the biggest story, the most important story. And before I start just randomly making fun of stuff, I figured we'd start off with that one. Obviously, very heartbreaking, and prayers go out to his friends and family. All right, let us get started with some of the news and notes from inside the perspective of Vikings fans, because it's different than actual news and notes, which don't exist right now. It's kind of, what's all the bull crap you guys are talking about over there? First of all, and we've covered this, by the way, this all is coming from content creators on YouTube. I'm not necessarily going to play every single video because it's not really necessary. I'll only do it when I find it to be funny. But we already knew, if you'd listened already, TJ Hawkinson is injured, is going to miss at least 4 games. However, Andrew Van Ginkel, who they recently signed and did have a good year last year, graded out really high on PFF, kind of one of those, like, I don't really expect that much from him, but at the same time, I mean, we kind of tore it up last year, so maybe, I don't know, who freaking knows these things. But he is recovering from a Liz Frank foot injury from last season with the Miami Dolphins, and is likely to start on PUP, which would put him in the same category as TJ Hawkinson. Kevin O'Connell seems to be handling this the right way, which is we're not going to rush them back. It's more important that we get, once they're back and they're healthy, as opposed to let's rush them back at 75%. So that does mean they may be out longer. The Packers did that last year, and we never saw anybody ever. That does mean, however, with Andrew Van Ginkel probably not playing, that we're going to see Dallas Turner right away. I don't know why we wouldn't anyways, but he's going to have a much larger role in things, so we'll get to see how the presumed top pass rusher in the class handles business. Already talked about the Vikings, and their fairly inept, at least on paper, defense is, but, if you got a good pass rusher, it's a good start, so we'll see what he can do. He was kind of viewed as a NFL-ready prospect as opposed to a project prospect. Not that that's 100% the case. I'm just saying that was at least what the Vikings thought they were getting. A lot of them, see, whenever, you got these big entities that come out with their lists, that's everybody's got to talk about it. I think Packer fans have covered this content. I think everybody already has. And you're either really excited about it or you're really ticked off. Vikings fans are really mad because I think it was, it's ESPN's Aaron Schatz ranked NFL teams under 25. So just taking all the under 25 talent and saying who has the best teams. The Vikings ranked 9th worst, 24th. And Vikings fans are not happy about that. I think specifically because, I guess you could say understandably, when your entire thesis, your entire reason for optimism, I mean, I've even said this, look, hey, maybe the future is your thing. It's not going to be this year. Maybe next year, probably not, but maybe the year after that, when you start to really put some years into this bad boy and, see what happens. To be ranked as one of the worst youth teams when your team has specifically undergone a youth movement, in other words, purging old people and bringing in young people, that is a kick in the jimmies. You know what I'm saying? To make matters worse, they actually said, according to Aaron Schatz, who apparently does this every year, I don't freaking know, they're worse than last year. They were 18th last year, 24th this year. The key youth players on the team, Jordan Addison, 22, J.J. McCarthy is 21, Dallas Turner is 21, Ivan Pace, their linebacker, don't know his age, but I think there's several points of frustration here. Number one is, obviously this is very low. I mean, it's one thing to say you're not necessarily one of the elite. It's another thing to say you're one of the worst. But I think Vikings fans demand a lot more respect for Jordan Addison than there is. I'm sort of in wait-and-see mode on him. I think Vikings fans overvalue him, but I would agree that he's kind of just completely forgotten about. I think the general reaction when people talk about young receivers, if Vikings fans say, what about Jordan Addison? The reaction would probably be something along the lines of, oh yeah, forgot about him. J.J. McCarthy, I would 100% agree, is one of the most... Actually, I can't even necessarily say that. I was going to say he's one of the most disrespected. That's not even entirely true. Maybe it's just because we're in the NFC North. I don't know. Is there any rookie quarterback that anyone gives a crap about other than Caleb Williams? It's funny. You go through the draft process, and it's like, oh, man, I really like Drake May. I really like Jaden Daniels. I think JJ's going to be... And then after the draft, a bunch of these guys go super early. They're going to be starting quarterbacks, not McCarthy, presumably, this year. And it's like, bro... Caleb might be MVP. What about Jaden? Who's Jaden? Okay. Drake May, is there a chance he could be good? Is there a possibility? Any way in the world. Last year, we had 2 quarterbacks go early. It was the one that went second. The one that went first was, I'm trying to think of the politest way possible to describe how catastrophically awful the number 1 pick was. And of course, everybody comes out after the fact, like, well, everybody knew that wasn't the real number 1. Everybody knew that. Bull crap. We all sat there during draft season and listened to people talk about you shouldn't worry about his height. That's stupid. It's nonsense to worry about his height. He is an elite quarterback. Blah, 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 blah. Do not sit here now after the fact and say, well, everybody knew C.J. Stroud was better. Everybody knew that. No, they did not. And by the way, I heard just as many people say that Jaden Daniels is better than... I probably heard more people say Jaden Daniels, I would take Jaden over Caleb, than I heard saying I would take CJ over Bryce. With, a handful picking Drake or JJ. Maybe not JJ, but Drake. I think there was at least one. But anyways, point is, it's just now that the draft is done, and that is the funny part about it. And it's like I try to remind people of this during draft season and remind people of draft season during this. The draft is really just like, it really is just like a game we play. Oh, these guys are elite. Oh, man, they're the best thing in the whole world. Oh, geez. Oh, man. Dallas Turner and J.J. McCarthy and Jordan Addison. These guys, you would not freaking believe how good they are. As soon as the draft's over, it's like, who gives a crap? It's like, bro, I thought J.J. McCarthy was like good. I thought you liked J.J. McCarthy. He's like, yeah, among the college quarterbacks, not against Pat Mahomes. Like, screw that guy. I don't care about J.J. McCarthy. He's a friggin' bum. And what have we been talking about the last 5 months? But look, here's what I would say to Vikings fans, because you're in a somewhat similar boat as Green Bay Packers fans, and that is you have to work twice as hard to get any level of respect. I don't know how the media decides who to like. I mean, you kind of default to sort of the big cities, which, sorry, Minnesota, you are not one of them. Minneapolis, whatever. I don't know what it takes. Detroit got on the bandwagon. I don't know how they got on the bandwagon. Just sort of a perfect storm of the coach was kind of a goofball, and they got Hard Knocks, and everybody was all in. I don't know. The Bears always have the media on their side, presumably because they're a big city, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's just an underdog complex. The Packers used to have that with Aaron Rodgers, right? They're just worshipped everywhere they went because they had Aaron Rodgers, right? And so everybody was elite, probably more so than they actually were. We had the greatest GM, the greatest head coach, the greatest quarterback, the greatest wide receivers, the greatest everything. I'm sure you know it made you sick, but you are in a season of disrespect, especially when nobody expects anything. When nobody expects anything of you, like the Packers last year, everybody starts to get real comfortable with disrespect. Even things that aren't true, just because who gives a crap? What are they going to say? They're going to suck this year. Nobody's going to care. What are you going to pull? What is a 5-win team going to pull receipts on me? You said Rashawn Gary wasn't going to be good, and he had a pretty good year. I'm not going to do that. So you got two options, man. Guys like Jordan Addison can either step up and be a top 10 wide receiver or just deal with the disrespect. And honestly, he's not going to be recognized as one unless you guys win games, which probably isn't going to happen this year. So I guess what I'm saying is just expect to be disrespected for a while. The next thing that I'm surprised is a talking point, and granted, this is a person from Yahoo Sports, not necessarily, maybe he's a Vikings person. I have no idea. I thought we were all on the same page with McCarthy maybe in 2025, because now we're starting to hear things like this.
One big thing that you're thinking about from Minnie.
Yeah, my one big thing for the Vikings is, can J.J. McCarthy win Offensive Rookie of the Year? And I don't think it's that crazy. Yeah, it's a stacked field with a lot of quarterbacks, obviously, but not many rookie quarterbacks step into such an advantageous situation. You look around him. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is still, to me, the best receiver on the planet. Addison had a great rookie season last year. Hawkinson will be back from an ACL at some point. They added Aaron Jones to help with the running game. I think Kevin O'Connell's a really, really good coach, and I think he's going to help get the most out of J.J. McCarthy. Now, they're playing this whole game of, hey, Sam's our guy right now, Sam Darnold. He's going to be, he's got the lead for week one. I don't think he holds that job very long, if he does at all. I don't know that he is their guy week one. And I think at some point, very, very soon in the season, J.J. McCarthy takes over. And I don't necessarily love J.J. McCarthy talent-wise. I think he's a good, solid quarterback. But just stepping into that situation is going to be so good for him that I think he can be the type of player that's in the Rookie of the Year conversation all year long. Obviously, voters love quarterbacks. So if you're going to go some long shot right now, not even that much of a long shot, but somebody who's not one of the top 2 or 3 favorites, I think J.J. McCarthy has a real chance to have a good rookie season. And as crazy as it sounds, maybe have the best rookie season out of all of these guys in this really star-studded, offensive-loaded draft class.
Now, there's a reason he's not one of the top 2 or 3, and that's because I think the consensus seems to be, the majority opinion seems to be that he's not going to start. And even if he does, he's going to start eventually. It'll be one of those things where they're not intending for him to start, but Darnold is going to be a pile of crap because that's what Darnold is. And by week 4 or 5, he comes in. But then at that point, how good do you have to be to beat out every other rookie quarterback as well as every other rookie offensive player, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, whatever? Yeah, bottom line is, again, it's easy to understand. I get the situation argument, but I stand on what I've said 1,000 times now. Situation is such an overhyped thing. I think, I don't know if it was Justin Fields specifically that just broke everybody's brain or what, but the idea that the situation makes the quarterback and not the other way around is such a broken philosophy. Listen, it helps. If J.J. McCarthy is a great quarterback, then that's going to be a great team because he's a great quarterback in a great situation. That's how that works. But if he's not a good quarterback, the situation is not going to elevate him. It's not. Bad quarterbacks in good situations suck. You know how I know? Because I've been watching football for 30 some odd years. We've all seen great receivers in terrible situations. Let's run through all of Megatron's quarterbacks. Do you even remember who they were? A good situation does not create a great quarterback. We have to stop doing this nonsense. If you want to know which, let's say, quarterback is going to win Rookie of the Year, you pick the quarterback that you think in year one can pull a CJ Stroud. And that's it. It's the reason CJ Stroud won it. Not because everyone looked at the Texans and said, oh boy. Which again, how stupid are we? Show me the evidence. And of course, everyone's going to say, well, Justin Fields is the evidence. No, it's not. You guys made that up. His situation was not as bad as everyone made it out to be. The fact that Andy Dalton was a better quarterback in that situation than Justin Fields was should have told you something. The fact that he got traded for pennies, the fact that he can't beat Russell Wilson for a job should tell you it was never really the situation. Not that he was in a great situation, but the fact of the matter is he's just a bad quarterback. The idea that, well, they broke him by just being such a bad situation. No, you guys are looking at it backward. Well, they had such a garbage system. They had to dumb down the system for Fields because he was such crap. All they do is throw screen passes. I know, because they wanted him to complete some. All they did was run the ball. Yeah, they didn't want him throwing it. How many different coaches and offensive play callers did that guy have? And every single one of them was a bust? By the way, didn't he have DJ Moore last year who graded out as like a top 10 wide receiver and he had a better than at least average offensive line and Cole Kmet's at least an average tight end? Like he was not in a bad situation. We have to stop this situation stuff. Same with the Chicago Bears, by the way. Spend more time talking about the wide receivers and, well, anything else is not really worth talking about, but more time talking about this greatest wide receiver trio in football and da-da-da-da-da-da than we do actually talking about, is Caleb going to be the most talented quarterback? And again, this is the reason why we're not talking about the other quarterbacks. Nobody forgot about Jaden Daniels because they didn't like Jaden Daniels. They don't like Washington. Nobody forgot about Drake May because they didn't like Drake May. Well, kind of. But he went to the Patriots, and everyone looks at the Patriots and goes, oh, they don't have elite wide receivers. They don't have elite tight ends. They don't have, So I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying that he's going to turn these teams into Super Bowl contenders if they're good quarterbacks, but you're going to see the talent. You're going to see it shine through. And if he throws pinpoint passes and a wide receiver drops it, you'll see it. Same with Michael Penix, by the way. Here we go with the situation. Look, if you think it's going to be close, fine, lean on situation. But if you think any one of these guys is going to be an elite quarterback and you pick the situation over the quarterback, you're an idiot. Situation is not more important than the quarterback. Period. Aside from that, there's a ton of nonsense about, trades. Maybe they'll trade. Packers get this all the time. I almost never cover it because it's stupid. But there's a lot of talk about the fact that they need help at corner. So there's talks about, possibly grabbing Marshawn Lattimore. Talk about getting some pass rush help with Emmanuel Ogbah. Wide receiver 3 essentially is up in the air. They know who number 1 and number 2 is, but the number 3 is And so there's talk about possibly just filling that gap with somebody out in the, NFL elsewhere. And the thought is maybe Treylon Burks. Is any of this going to happen? No. Then there is an interesting video from Purple FTW. Now, I've got a few Purple FTWs, and again, I don't know how seriously to take his videos. He is a homer to the max. I don't know if anybody would necessarily point to him as the most reliable source, I guess, but when you got 80,000 subscribers and tons of people like to watch your content, I guess I get to use it all I want. I've said before that I'm not going to just hand out respect to people that haven't proven it, and I think even Vikings fans have gotten to that point with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, their GM. I don't think the drafting has gone very well. I don't know that they've added a ton of talent. And one of the guys that we don't know exactly if, how, when this person is going to be a major contributor is Lewis Cine. Lewis Cine, I believe, was a second-round pick. He's a safety. There was a ton of hype year one, like, he's going to be this, that, or the other, and he ended up getting injured. Now, my assumption was eventually just figure his crap out and we'll get a chance to look at him and see if he's good at football or whatever. According to Mr. Purple FTW, Cine is currently considered the 6th safety on the depth chart and has not contributed significantly on special teams. He did a whole video titled, "Will the Minnesota Vikings be able to trade Lewis Cine?" In other words, he's useless, he's dead weight. We already have, now part of this might be overvaluing the safeties that you already currently have. And Harrison Smith being one of them is not worth talking about because the guy's not going to be in Minnesota much longer. So, in my opinion, outside of Cam Bynum, I'd certainly like to hang on to Cine and see if we can get this guy going a little bit. But he lists Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, Jay Ward, and Theo Jackson all ahead of Cine, which is devastatingly awful if that's even close to being true. But as a Packer fan, I love so much seeing high value being thrown at people that just do not materialize at all. And I feel like, especially with Minnesota, especially with DBs, it has been a massive trend. And in no way does that have anything to do with the recent news of somebody that passed away. But look at all the other people. Actually, I think there's 2 that have passed away, if I'm not mistaken. Even setting those 2 aside, it's been terrible. One of them went to prison, didn't he, or something? I can't remember. Man, I can't keep it straight. It's just, it's a revolving door of you don't know what you're doing. Same guy, again, not super serious, says the Vikings have the best linebacking core in the NFL. He partially decides to cheat by saying, well, now that we're a 3-4, I can count our pass rushers as linebackers, which I'll even grant you that because it doesn't matter. You still don't have the best linebacking core. That just opens up the door to other 3-4 teams with significantly better pass rushers than you. But, he lists Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Jonathan Grenard, and Dallas Turner. Bro, this is stupid. It's not, no. Nope. You don't. You just don't. And then finally, some potential cap casualties. This is something that actually is going to be kind of interesting to follow for all 32 teams, not only just potential Packers cap casualties, but especially the other 31 teams around the NFL, and could there be some value floating around out there? But Mr. Purple FTW lists 7 shocking potential Minnesota Vikings veteran cap casualties. Sorry about this stupid frickin' mic. Harrison Phillips, which would be a relatively pretty big cut, largely because I think they need help in that area. And he's only 28, so he's got some years left on. Quarterback Nick Mullins, fullback C.J. Ham, Jonathan Bullard, defensive end, Brandon Powell, wide receiver, Patrick Jones, which if they cut Patrick, I mean, that would be another one. That's devastating. You just drafted the guy. I mean, come on. There was so much trash talk about how great this guy's going to be and how good he is and everything else, and now we're talking about he's going to be a cap casualty in the final year of his deal? Jeez. And then Johnny Munt, tight end. Again, maybe this is all nonsense, but jeez, if Cine really is that bad and Patrick Jones really is that bad, you got to get a new GM, because if you really think you're going to bounce back, first of all, he should not be picking your quarterbacks. I mean, maybe you lucked into one with McCarthy, we'll see. But if this guy can't do his job, which it's starting to look like he can't, you got to find somebody else. You're in the rebuild phase. You need a really good GM now. This is when really good GMs shine. This is when they turn around franchises. And this guy is, I mean, I'm not saying that they're all misses, because they're not, but it's not good enough. Anyways, why don't we take a break? We'll come back and prance around, look at some other teams. We got the Lions and the Bears, see what they're talking about. And we'll be right back. You know, my son started collecting football cards. I had no idea what the heck I was doing, so I went out and bought him one of those binders you put all the cards in and all that kind of stuff. Turns out, card collecting has come a long way since when I was a kid, and that's what people did. Now, there is a new way to buy, sell, and trade cards. It's called Arena Club. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the all-in-one trading card platform that you have to sign up for. Over at arenaclub.com/packdaddy. We actually did a whole YouTube video about this. I would encourage you to check it out. It is a fantastic website. You can, as I said, you can buy, trade, sell, but also you can display all of your cards right there on the platform. It gives you all of the grading. They'll even grade your cards. Their grading combines AI as well as human grading. to get the most accurate rating of all your cards. And right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by going to arenaclub.com/packdaddy. That's arenaclub.com/packdaddy for 10% off your first purchase. You ever hear of test driving a phone network? Well, US Cellular is letting you test drive their nationwide 5G for free. Try out US Cellular wherever you have spotty service. Your commute to work, that one spot in your house where your service dips. It's as easy as doing a little beep boop pop boop pop with your phone. That's the buttons. That's the noise they make. Anyways, test drive US Cellular's nationwide 5G coverage for free for 30 days. Just download the Try Us app. US Cellular, built for us. Terms apply. Visit uscellular.com/try us. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. So as we move on to the Detroit Lions, it's a completely different energy over there. Rather than, come on, man, why don't you pay attention to me? It's a whole lot of just, they're feeling good. They're feeling good. There's a little bit of the same old, like, oh, who should we go get? Right? Rumors swirling. The Lions are going to get Matthew Judon, right? That's every team has rumors swirling about potentially getting so-and-so, and of course we got to talk about it. We got the top 5 edge rushers the Detroit Lions should target. So you got all that kind of good stuff. But here is, I hate to say the vibe because that's stupid. Here's what you're getting when you go crossing into Detroit Lions territory. Let me read a couple headlines to you. This is from Motor City Mania. Detroit Lions' nightmarish talent completely terrifies rivals. What the Detroit Lions are doing is terrifying, and the NFL is trying to hide it. Detroit Lions news, the unthinkable is about to happen. Lions believe they have a star in underrated rookie. Detroit Lions genius on display once again. Detroit Lions premier offense to ascend to awesome new heights. Breaking news. Detroit news to get... that's not as interesting. Detroit Lions just found unexpected MVP candidate. And then even from the herd, Aaron Rodgers' noisy summer, Lions well-deserved hype. These guys are cocky, man. This is all the videos as I scroll through is just a whole lot of this. The Lions ascend to awesome new heights. The genius on display once again. Underrated superstars. Nightmarish talent completely terrifies rivals. Come on. This is embarrassing. You guys haven't done anything. Good Lord. Let's go ahead and listen to some of this nonsense, shall we?
And the reason why is because these are special teams. These are teams that will forever stand out in the annals of, NFL history. That's how good of those types of teams we're talking about here. Now, apart from the success that each one of those teams that I just, named off, they all share one other common point of reference other than the success that they had. And that was and is the fact that when they played, when those teams were assembled, they were frighteningly talented teams to their opponents. These were teams that, quite simply put, no one at the time they played at wanted to play opposite of them. Nobody wanted to line up opposite of them. On Sunday, Thursday, I don't care what day it was. They simply were a team that were so nightmarishly, so over-talented that opponents that had to line up opposite of them already knew the chances were they were going to get their asses kicked and it was going to be a long afternoon. Now, think about this, folks. Why are we talking about this in regards to the Detroit Lions?
I don't know, but I'd like you to get to the point so I can make my point.
The reason I'm discussing this is because I believe that the Detroit Lions are currently such a team that in 2024 could actually fall into this category. I believe they could join that list of teams that I just mentioned. And let me just put this out.
To be clear, what he's talking about, I tried to go back far enough to give you the context, but let's just be very clear. What he's saying is, in 2024, the Lions could go down as one of the all-time great NFL teams. How freaking delusional do you have to be? And the two qualifiers you put forward are nightmarishly talented teams, which I don't know how we quantify that other than you're just saying silly things. I can guarantee you right now I can find teams in the NFL that are more talented than the Lions in just 2024, much less throughout the annals of history. But the other thing is teams don't want to play them. First of all, number one, prove to me that qualifies for the Detroit Lions. Number two, that technically could be just about any better than average team. In fact, I have one example, and that is the Detroit Lions did not want to play the Green Bay Packers last year, according to your star wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Should they go down in the annals of history? Should they be considered one of the greatest teams? Not a single Packer fan is saying that. Wow, the 2023 Green Bay Packers should go down as one of the greatest in NFL history, or even in 2020. Listen, I hear all kinds of optimism here. I've been optimistic. People that are a lot more optimistic than me have said a lot of stuff. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say the 2024 Packers could be one of the greatest teams in NFL history. You freaking D-bags got to the playoffs one time, win the division one time. I mean, literally in history, you won this division one time. And now we got to hear you brag about this could be the greatest, one of the greatest teams in NFL history? You weren't even that good of a team to end the season, bro. Let's let him elaborate on why this team is as good as it is.
The quarterback. Well, like I said, the Detroit Lions are an offense, or a team rather, pardon me, that has both brute ability and physicality like a hammer, but yet they are so deadly and surgical like a scalpel. Well,
okay, so now we've elaborated a bit here. We're getting deep into some analytics and some real solid film study here. They are as devastating as a hammer and deadly as a scalpel. Okay, so we've got that. These guys, no offense, man. I mean, he's got a bigger channel than I do, and I wish him luck in all his fandom and all that in his channel, of course. But it's like they literally have no idea how to be a good football team. Even as a fan base, they haven't figured out, like, what do we do? I've only ever been, like, a fan of a team that sucked. I don't know how to be a fan of a team or a content creator of a team that's really good. You're coming out saying might be the greatest of all time because they're as devastating as a hammer and as swift as a scalpel. What are you doing? It might take a couple seasons of being good to figure this thing out, but I'm telling you, you're on the wrong track. See what else we got here.
Line in NFL right now. You have the best offensive
line in the NFL is what he said.
Coordinator in the NFL right now. You have a top 7, top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now.
Okay, top 10 is top third. I've said that 1,000 times. It's not that freaking impressive. To have 9 better quarterbacks in a league of just 32 teams is not something you need to brag about. But please continue.
You have the best running back duo in the NFL right now. You have a top 10 wide receiver, almost top 5 wide receiver, arguably, in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you have a top 3 tight end. Think about it, folks. There is nary a freaking weak spot on this offense. In fact, if you realistically want to think, the weakest spot on the offense is the wide receiver depth. Other than that,
I was going to say wide receiver 2, to be specific, is a weak spot. The larger issue here is, first of all, quarterback is the most important thing. You have listed things better than what the Chiefs have, but the Chiefs are a better football team than you, because you don't have the best offensive coordinator in football. If what we're referring to is offensive play caller, which is what we should be referring to, because the Packers are better, the Chiefs are better, the 49ers are better. There's a lot of better play callers than what the Detroit Lions have right now. They also are a lot of better quarterbacks right now, including the Chiefs, the 49ers. Yes, I'm saying Brock Purdy, the Green Bay Packers. Do you have a better offensive line? Yeah. Do you have a good offensive coordinator? Sure, a lot of teams do. Best running back duo? First of all, no. Second of all, who gives a crap? Third of all, you're only talking about your offense, right? Is that it? Is there another phase of the game? Like, special teams is one, right? That's one of the things. That's a thing. You got to kick field goals. You got to return kicks. I thought there was something else. There's offense and special teams. And, I know, defense. Oh, yeah. But you got the hammer and scalpel thing going on. I should have the robot make me a red flag, reminiscent of the communist, the old USSR communist flag, hammer and scalpel. I don't know. Let us continue.
I fully expect that we can beat them. So what I'm trying to say is this. Could the Lions go 8-0 for the beginning of the year? Yes, they could. But I think if we want to be more realistic, 6-2 might be more realistic. But 8-0 is not out of the realm of possibilities.
Okay. 8-0 is possible, sure. In fact, let me pull up the Green Bay Packers here. Let's see what is possible for the Packers. Eagles win, Colts win, Titans win, Vikings win, Rams win, Cardinals win. They could go 6-0. If they beat the Texans, they'll be 7-0. They could be 8-0 if they beat the Jaguars, 9-0 if they beat the Lions, bye week. Heck, they could go 17-0. They could, possibly. And then, there's the more realistic thing, but they could go 8-0. They could go 9-0, 10-0, 11-0, 12-0. I thought it was interesting, though, that he went out to 8. Do you know why he went out to 8? You got the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Cowboys, the Vikings, and the Titans. And he said that they could realistically go 8-0 in that span. They play the Green Bay Packers week 9. That's why he cut it off. By the way, I don't know that you're going to beat Dallas in Dallas. I don't know that you beat Seattle. Not sure about all that. Just leaving aside all the fluky things, too, teams lose to teams that they shouldn't lose to all the time. It happens a lot. Continuing.
Talking about how nightmarishly good the talent the Lions have right now.
Nightmarishly good. That's what we're talking about. Nightmarishly. We've all seen some really scary offenses. The Packers have had some really scary offenses over the years. This is not a nightmarishly scary team. You've got a really good offensive line. You don't have a top 3 tight end. You have a top 10 tight end. You have a top 5 wide receiver with 0 depth. Your other wide receivers are just butt ugly. Goff is top 10, but he also peaked last year. In other words, he had maybe the best year of his entire career, so he's maybe top 10. And as far as your running backs, I mean, even if you had the best duo, which I don't think you do, in fact, I think you've got some real good competition in the NFC North. Nobody cares. Gibbs was barely a top 20 running back last year. This is just such overhyped nonsense. You don't have corners unless Arnold comes in as a rookie and tears things up, which is rare. You don't have safeties or linebackers, so you got Brian Branch playing in the slot/safety maybe sometimes. He's your one good DB on the entire team, and you got like 3 defensive linemen that are good. I'm not trying to argue the Lions aren't a good team. This is silliness. Nightmarishly good? Come on now.
pair that chemistry, it's truly a nightmarish prospect for the entire NFL to even try and handle. The Lions are hungry. The Lions are talented. The Lions are unified. And the Lions are coming to kick some serious freaking ass.
Continuing.
Anyway, I just wanted to put this episode together because, again, I look forward to what the Lions are going to be able to do in 2024. And I'm telling you this right now. I fully expect that there are going to be teams that are going to be like, dude, we do not want to play the Lions. We do not want to see the Lions. We do not want to come anywhere near Detroit. The bad boys are back. But in this time...
The bad boys are back. Okay. So there you go. The bad boys are back. What do you mean by back, by the way? Back from where? What? They're back. What? I'm trying to picture who the bad boys were that left. I don't know. I've never seen them. Who are the bad boys that left and have now come back? I'm not aware of these bad boys. Won't spend too much more time on this, but we'll go through as much as we can before we need to kick it over to the Bears. Here is a different channel, Rock Down Detroit Lions, and he's referring to the question of, is it possible the Lions could sort of collapse or implode?
And fall back down, and I don't see it happening. The team is too good. The coaching staff is too good. The ether is too high. The fan base is behind this team. I just don't see it.
So, again, it's not quite as outrageous, but it's the ether is too high. The fans are behind. Who gives a crap? The team could suck. It could happen. Takes it a bit further here.
In their respective categories and positions. No one's touching the Lions in the NFC North. Yes, there's going to be some dogfights with the Packers. Yeah, there could be a bloody nose or so with the Chicago Bears, but I don't think that the Lions are going to not end up on top in those situations. I feel like
nobody's touching the Lions. It's not even a conversation. Might have some tough battles with the Packers, like last year. Maybe we dropped a game. Oh, whoop-de-doo. Sorry about that, but we're not going to lose anything. We're going to win. Not even a question, bro.
Here it is. I didn't think that this was going to be possible for a while. Let me make sure I get everything open so I can run through it. I didn't think that this was going to be possible for a while, but something just popped in my head yesterday. And matter of fact, the thumbnail from this morning had my thought process already on it, and I didn't change the thumbnail, so I changed the thumbnail after the show this morning. But Calvin Johnson and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Calvin Johnson being a Hall of Famer. Arguably one of the best wide receivers to ever come through the Detroit Lions organization.
To ever play in the NFL.
Had an amazing, 9-10 seasons with the Lions. And I got to thinking, is Amon-Ra going to be able to beat out Calvin Johnson, take over all the statistics that he put up?
Okay, I don't need to continue that. This is the ridiculous high that they're riding right now after winning a freaking division title and getting bounced from the playoffs. Nobody's touching us in the NFC North. The ether is too high. We can't be stopped. And Amon-Ra St. Brown could surpass Calvin Johnson's career achievements. All of them. All of them. I mean, as a Packer fan, that is unbelievably disrespectful to Calvin Johnson. He's one of the best wide receivers to come through Detroit. Are you freaking high? He's by far the best wide receiver to ever play in Detroit. If it wasn't for Jerry Rice, I don't know how much dispute there would be that he's the greatest wide receiver of all time. Not putting him, let's just say, in the top 5 all-time wide receivers for any team is silly. And you're over here talking about he's one of the best. Oh, I'm freaking bleeding over here. He's one. Like, what is that? Leg is all wet. One of the best to play in the NFL. Or excuse me, for the lot. If these are the levels that you have to stoop to to prop up how good your team is, to pretend that this is going to be, I know this is a different channel, different topic, but sort of having the similar conversations about how elite this team could really be. The fact that, I think we got another Calvin Johnson on our hands. Okay, you have lost your freaking mind. You've lost the plot, as they say on the other side of the pond. You've lost the freaking plot, dude. Out of your mind. Stupid. I mean, this is we're not even having serious conversations now. So I didn't even get to half of the videos, but it seems as though just peering across the other side of the lake, this is what we're doing with Detroit. But you know what? It's kind of like I've said with Bears fans for a long time. And granted, it's not the same thing where the Bears are just this garbage team and they refuse to acknowledge it and think their quarterback who sucks is going to win MVP and their team that sucks is going to win the North. This is a team that's probably going to win a lot of games. But the pain is just going to be that much more excruciating. As much as I've been ragging on the Bears and I don't want them to have success, the possibility of the Packers winning the division with the Bears coming in second and the Lions falling to third, I don't know. I don't know that I hate it at this point. Why don't we take a break? We'll see what the Bears are up to, and then we'll get out of here. As for the Chicago Bears, as I mentioned, a lot of these guys that come out with their rankings, a lot of them, they're talking about the same stuff, and they're mad about the disrespect. One of the things Bears fans are upset about is that their secondary got ranked 19th.
We're going to get into some positional rankings, and I think Bears fans are a little pissed off, Greg, because PFF, looking at the top secondaries according to PFF, you look at the top 10, the Chicago Bears are not on there. You have to go all the way to number 19 to find the Chicago Bears, but you have the Jets, 49ers, Bills at 3, Ravens at 4, Dolphins, Browns, Seahawks, the Packers. Chiefs and Saints in the top 10, and then the teams that's still in front of the Bears, the Lions, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Bengals, Titans, Broncos, Raiders, Texans, and number 19, the Chicago Bears.
They're so upset because, again, they just refuse to see reality. So I'm going to let him elaborate a little bit because it makes it even a little bit funnier. Here he goes.
I feel like this whole entire offseason, Greg, we've been talking about arguably the greatest strength on this Bears roster.
I know.
Is their secondary.
First of all, if that's your argument, and I would argue back that Bears fans have been smarter than that. Because the only thing I've heard is wide receiver. Wide receiver, and fair enough. DJ Moore last year was the 10th best wide receiver via PFF. Allen was 11th, and you went out and got a Dunze. Now, I don't know that Moore stays 10th, because I think it's one of his best performances ever. And you have a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. Keenan Allen is now, 32 and on a brand new team. Again, new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, and we don't know what Roma Dunze is. But if you're going to make an argument that I'm not going to argue with you about, it's that wide receiver is your strength, and it's a pretty solid strength. I would be happy with more Allen and a Dunze. But there are certain delusions that, and I fight with Bears fans about this more than anything. Lions fans are like in the macro a little delusional, but I don't know that we would argue about we have an elite offensive line. Yeah, and Amon-Ra's elite. Yeah, we don't have much depth aside from that though. Yeah, that's right. We got a really good tight end. Yes, you. There may be some dispute about how good or important the running back role is. How good Goff is. There's no arguing about any of this stuff. Vikings fans, kind of the same thing. Justin Jefferson, real good. They might be a little higher on Addison than what is realistic, but I think that's just within the normal fan margin of what is rational. But Bears fans, I mean, they're looking at the situation, and I think they just believe they believe Brisker is a real elite top safety. They believe Kevin Byard is just this slam dunk that they went out and got. They believe that Tyreek Stevenson, who was a second-round pick going into year 2, is just this absolute slam dunk. They are rocking in the secondary. And largely, probably, when you look at last year, the secondary really performed quite well, which, granted, it's kind of a different secondary. And then the biggest one being Jalen Johnson, who was the number 1 corner, which is what they assume is going to stay that way, which it will not. Go find me a corner that stayed the number 1 corner 2 years in a row. You probably got to go back a ways. In fact, find me a number one corner that didn't drop off fairly significantly the next year. It's a pretty volatile position.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre to see that list and see them that far down. I mean, a team that, a secondary that led the league in interceptions and the majority of them in the second half. And I guess the person that's going to try to make the opposite argument and say, well, the majority of those interceptions came against Jared Goff. Well, Jared Goff was a pretty good quarterback.
Okay, but the entire point is that interceptions are fleeting. Jared Goff does not throw a ton of interceptions. The fact that whatever the situation is, he threw 5 interceptions, whatever. I don't know what I'm not even going to look it up. It doesn't matter. Basing the fact that you think that this group of DBs is your biggest strength because they got a bunch of picks down the stretch, which, by the way, should scare you more than anything, because that's not something that is sustainable. And if the entire basis of your defense being good in the second half of last year was based on picks, which I believe it largely was, then your entire basis for believing your defense is actually this really dominant force is bunk.
Last year, and they made him look very average. So I don't know. I understand they got some of their interceptions in bunches in some of those games, but at the same time, I don't understand how that can be a detriment to take somebody that's a 4,000-yard passer and then, have him throw multiple interceptions in games against you.
It's not the interceptions, it's the talent. It's not about nobody gives a crap about how many interceptions you guys got. What matters is talent. And when you look at, and maybe 19th is too low. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and go through the whole list. It's not interesting enough. But it's Jalen Johnson will regress. Byard is a low-end number 1. Brisker is kind of a mid to low-end number 2. Stevenson is a bad corner. And Kyler Gordon, too. I think, I don't know, Bears fans genuinely believe this guy's good at football. I know I've argued with Bears fans about that and was shocked to find out that they actually believed in the guy. He's another second-round pick. Similar to the Vikings, they've taken some relatively early swings that have not really panned out. I mean, Jalen Johnson was a second-round pick back in 2020, and obviously he had his big breakout year in 2023, but 2022, 2021, and 2020 were all garbage, which is, by the way, all the more reason to be skeptical about him being the number 1 corner or even close to it this year. But Gordon and Stevenson, who are also second-round picks, have never been good at football. Byard is and Brisker is just not very good. By the way, again, and I've said this 1,000 times, Byard is 31 years old. And he peaked in 2021 and has gotten worse every single year. And he is now playing once again for a new team. Are they better than 19th? Probably. But to pretend this is your biggest strength is silly. And then we get down to, you knew this one was going to piss him off.
I mean, you're going to say the Packers secondary is definitively better than the Bears? I guess we should ask.
First of all, none of this is definitive. This is speculation. But yes, there is expectation that the Packers secondary will be better. Because despite Jalen Johnson being better than Jair Alexander for 1 year out of the last 4, that has not been the consensus. Beyond that, I think the corner depth in Green Bay is better. Xavier McKinney is maybe the best DB between both teams. And they drafted 3 safeties. So definitive? Absolutely not. Do the Packers have better players at the corner and safety positions? Yeah. Historically speaking, which is all we have to go on, is history.
Tom about this because, to me, I think there's a fair argument. I mean, they're just watching those teams the last game of the season. It really felt like, there was an even wash in that regard. One team had a quarterback and an offense and a play caller with Matt LaFleur that really understood what they were doing, and the Bears offense was what it was. So, but yet, that game was still pretty close, even though the Bears couldn't move the football or get to the quarterback, which has nothing to do with the secondary.
Yeah, and
I don't know what that has to do with anything. The Bears secondary had a more difficult situation. I mean, this is all just like cherry picking. This is what I don't like about the majority of these. Like, what are we talking about? Like, we're gonna look at what they did in the second half of this. This is like casual fandom where I don't look at 32 teams. I look at my own team and just a couple examples. Look at the interceptions the Bears had in the second half of last year. So what? So where should they rank then? Well, the Bears and Packers played each other, and the Bears had a more difficult job in the secondary than the Packers did because the Packers' offense is better than the Bears' offense. So, what does that mean? Even if the Bears' secondary looked better in that game, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. That doesn't take into account all of the players and their entire career and their career trajectories. It also doesn't have anything to do with the changes that have taken place. Both teams have brand new safeties, for example. The Packers are likely going to have a new number 2 corner and potentially a new slot corner. So what does looking at last year's Bears-Packer game have to do with anything? Who gives a crap? Anyways, beyond that, you've got some panic about Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze haven't signed their contracts. There's really no reason whatsoever to panic about that. Rumors about David Bakhtiari going over to the Bears have been speculated, obviously. There's absolutely no foundation in that whatsoever other than people are bored and write articles. Swift Sports did a YouTube video, Bears narrative alert, Caleb Williams holdout. Like, nah, it'd be hilarious if he did, but that dude's not going to hold. One of my favorite videos was put out by Keek on the Mic. I think it is Kieq. I always try to promote them, especially if I'm going to make fun of them or the Bears or their team or whatever, or use their content. Go check them out. Kieq on the Mic, a Chicago Bears podcast. He did one that is titled "Bears Moving On from Tevin Jenkins?" ? Ex-Bears scout blunt about his future in Chicago. I thought Tevin Jenkins was supposedly this elite, I guess now he's the left guard, this elite offensive lineman. Offensive line has improved drastically. I mean, he's got massive injury issues, but I mean, so that's what we're talking about now? The potential of possibly trading, cutting, moving on from Tevin Jenkins? By the way, there was an argument to be made that he is the only good offensive lineman on this entire. Braxton Jones had a really good rookie year. He ranked 19th. Last year, he ranked 34th with a 68 grade. It wasn't that great as a left tackle. At center, they brought in Ryan Bates. He is never graded out as a very good football player. At right guard, they got Nate Davis, a guy that hates being in Chicago more than anybody else. He refuses to be there unless he absolutely has to be. He just refuses to show up. He also didn't show up last year. He ranked 17th in 2022. He ranked 58th last year when he became a Chicago Bear. And then you got Darnell Wright, who all Bears fans are convinced is the second coming of something amazing. I don't know what. He ranked 52nd as their right tackle. He is not, or was not, a good football player. So if he doesn't improve, and Davis is still Davis, and Bates is still Bates, and Jones doesn't improve back to what he was as a rookie, Tevin Jenkins, who doesn't ever play a full season, is really the only good player on this team. But he's 26 and has severe injury issues. So, I mean, they're on the precipice of, either being really good or, you might have your tackles figured out. If Jones can anchor that left side, and Wright can step up, and Jenkins can stay, and Davis can at least get back to what he was prior to becoming a Chicago Bear, where he's decent, and Bates can be average, then you just got, two kind of spots in the middle that you can work on. But if things go the other way, your offensive line sucks. I mean, the Bears in general are really teetering. You got the offensive line. Of course, the quarterback situation is a big iffy one. DeAndre Swift is just kind of a nothing thing. The wide receiver situation. I mean, you've got Moore, Allen, and Odunze. If Odunze is an elite football player and Moore and Allen more or less stay what they have been, this is an unbelievably good wide receiver core. On the reverse side, if Odunze plays like a lot of rookies tend to play, if Allen regresses at the age of whatever he is, 32, and DJ Moore goes back to being what he's been for the majority of his career, I think last year he ranked, what was that, 32nd or something last year, which is, a very low-end number one. Not to mention, Allen will not be here much longer. I don't know, in fact, how much longer DJ Moore is going to be a Chicago Bear. I'm guessing for at least 2 to 3 more years. You've got your DBs, which is a ugly situation Because, again, if Johnson regresses back to what he's been, and of course, you're going to have the same situation that you had with the safety, who was garbage, and then he broke out, and then you paid him too much money, and then he went back to being garbage, and then you had to cut him because you couldn't afford him, which is why you brought in safety Kevin Byard to fill in, but he's 31 years old, so that's a short-term solution. Brisker's not a good football player. You don't have anybody there. However, if Johnson stays really good and one of these other second-round picks can kind of step it up and Brisker can figure out how to play football in year 3, you got a good safety group. I mean, it really depends which way they fall between being like this premier, really good football team, if the coaches, if the players can step up and the coaches can put it all together, and them regressing back to just being a complete dumpster fire. But anyways, that's about it for the Bears. I'm not going to get too much into it because I spent so much time with the other ones, and we spent a lot of time on the Bears as it is. So I'll leave it at that for now. You guys have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.